Hey, what's up, guys? Chad here with the Reptile Rangers. Now, we're at the Kernersville Reptile Zoo and Medical Center again today, and we're going to talk about, I had a subscriber write in asking if we could do a video on what to do if you're bit by a venomous snake and you don't have a first aid kit. I kind of know where this is going. Not necessarily meaning around your house or in your zoo or in your personal collection and, in your home or whatever the case may be. I know what he's talking about. So we're going to get into that here in just a couple of minutes. But before we do, right here in that bottom corner, touching it right there, is our subscriber button. Make sure you hit that. And for those that already have, we appreciate you following along week after week after week. Now, let's get right into this. Okay, so the subscriber that we had wrote us in and asked if we could do a video on what to do if you're bit by a venomous snake and you don't have that basic first aid kit. What he's simply meaning is if you're in the mountains, if you're hiking, if you're in the desert, if you're just out and about, and whether it's local out and about or whether it's far out and about, what would you do if you were bitten by a venomous snake? Now, we're not going to give a lot of medical advice, as that's not what this is about, and that's not what we're going to do. We're not going to give advice saying you should or you shouldn't. We're just going to talk about some of the standard things that are just, it's readily available, it's online, just some of the things that's just out there to do to kind of help yourself if you're bit by a venomous snake and you don't have any kind of first aid kit to help yourself. Unfortunately, first aid kit's not really going to do, there's not much that you can do in a first aid kit in the first place. Even if you was bit by a venomous snake and you had a first aid kit, there's not a lot that's going to help with that, okay? But let's just say you have absolutely nothing, you're just out and you're enjoying your day, and you get nailed by a venomous snake. Well, let's talk about snake bite symptoms. Well, so there's things like bloody discharge, excessive bleeding, fang mark, pain, discoloration, enlarged lymph nodes, diarrhea, convulsions, fainting, dizziness, weakness, blurred vision, excessive sweating, fever, increased thirst, nausea, vomiting, numbness, tingling, rapid pulse, an altered mental state, paralysis, and difficulty breathing. All right, now, I had this whole list right here of all these different things because, no, I'm not going to remember all those different symptoms. So, I got them wrote down there of all the different symptoms that you could feel. Now, you could feel some of these. I mean, there's things like nausea that you could feel. There's fever, there's pain. There could be no pain at all. It really depends on what you're bit by, and we're not really talking about worldwide stuff. We're more talking about things inside the United States. So there could be bleeding, there could be excessive pain, of course, the fang marks, the bite marks, swelling. You could have an immense amount of nausea, diarrhea, vomiting, things like that. So there's so many different symptoms that can come. Understand venom is a toxic level of, I'm going to dumb this down, it's just considered a toxic level form of protein. So each body reacts differently, and all bodies can react differently, okay? Because it is a protein and your body's trying to metabolize that protein, one in some form or another. When we go back to the subscriber asked about what do you do? So there's several things that you can do. Number one, when you're bit by a venomous snake, is to try and stay calm. That is absolutely number one. The faster your heart pumps, the faster the venom is going to work. Understand, venom only works when it's directly put into the bloodstream, usually by injection. If you get upset or your adrenaline starts pumping, what is now in the bloodstream is going to be pumped and pushed that much faster through your body, which can start doing more damage much faster. So, of course, you want to stay calm as possible. Now, the old adage of when you have a wound or you get cut or scratched or you're just bleeding in general is to elevate it above your heart. Well, that is for scrapes and cuts and things like that. You do not want to do that with a venomous snake bite. You don't put it above your heart because if it goes above your heart, it's going to go to your heart just that much faster. So you want to keep it below the heart, okay? You want to keep it below the heart, stay calm, so that it's not going through the bloodstream that much faster. There's, of course, several things that you want to do. You want to remove tight objects, such as rings and watches, and even constricting clothing. Now, if it's in the summertime, a lot of people wear clothing, it looks like they've been poured into them. So you might cause a scene because restrictive clothing has to be removed in most cases. Okay. Now, I'm going to say this, that if it starts swelling, maybe you have an expensive watch, maybe you have an expensive ring, maybe you have expensive clothing, maybe you don't. Now, if people are wearing things that look like they've been shrink wrapped to their body, if it's tight, when help does get to you, that crap is coming off. It's they're going to be removing that stuff because they don't want anything restricting the flow. Now you say, okay, well, what about a tourniquet? Okay, so my rule of thumb is this, and this is just my personal what we talk about when we're working with paramedics, when we're teaching, which we have, when we're teaching or working with paramedics, we're working with others. They're bound by the medical board, okay? And so they have to say what their state or their organization tells them they have to say. Now, for us, there is benefits. So, to tourniquet or not to tourniquet, this is one of the big things that's always been a question. The state of North Carolina has, for a long time, goes, nope, you don't tourniquet at all, period. And they changed it when the military started changing their idea on it. Now we tourniquet, okay, if that be the case. Here's my general rule of thumb. If you're talking things that's relatively, they're dangerous, but they're not life-threatening if you get to help within a good amount of time, there's no real reason to do a tourniquet if you're close enough to help. What is close? Well, that is unfortunately going to be up to kind of your discretion. So as when to tourniquet, when to not. Some doctors and some paramedics, some folks in our industry that work with venomous snakes, they may tell you to tourniquet right out of the gate. That is their personal opinion, and maybe that's their professional opinion in some of the things that they've seen before. Some will tell you, hey, if you're close to help, maybe you're within 10 minutes of help, maybe you're within 15 minutes, maybe you're even within a half hour of help. Don't tourniquet because of the possibility or more possibility of necrosis happening. When you let's say you get bit in the hand and you go ahead and you put a tourniquet here, or you put a tourniquet up here, and it absolutely is going to keep most of that venom here, then it could start doing that necrotic effect, blistering, and eating away at the tissue and the flesh and the bone and things like that. Yeah, that is a higher possibility. But of course, as my cousin says it, you can live without a hand, you can't live without your life, obviously. Okay, so again, now I'm not a big fan of doing a tourniquet unless I'm way out in the way somewhere. If I was to be bit and I'm 45 plus minutes from help, an hour plus from help, literally from help, from first responder or from a hospital, I might go ahead and do a tourniquet because that's a long time for that to course through the body. So a tourniquet, I don't really, I try not to be a proponent or opponent for either or. That's just going to be based off of what you personally feel that you need to do. The further away from help, then even, I would be a proponent of that. The closer to help, maybe not so much. And it also depends on what you get bit by. If you get bit by a copperhead, that's really no harm, no foul unless you have some serious alternative medical health issues. But things like cottonmouths and timber rattlesnakes and eastern diamondbacks, things like that, they are quite a bit more dangerous, which is stuff that we have here in our state. And again, I have to talk about our state, western diamondbacks and the blacktails and the hobbies and the speckles and all those different ones in the Midwest. Those are a little bit more dangerous as well. You do need to also make sure if you was to get bit, okay, if you get bit, then you want to, if you have the ability, again, remember, this is all talking about you don't have any form of first aid kit. So inside of a first aid kit, you should have a Sharpie or a pen or something like that. Well, if you get bit, let's say you get bit right here on the top of the hand, you circle it, and then you mark the time. Okay, that way, once you do get to medical attention, then they know exactly what time you've been bitten. They can follow the swelling. They can do what they need to do as far as medical professionals goes and getting you the right aid. The one thing, there's several things. Don't worry. Of course, if you're not carrying a health kit, you shouldn't be carrying anything that's electric shock. But some people do carry tasers as just a means of protection. That's not part of a health kit. Don't electric shock it. It's not going to do any good. Don't cut and suck. You can actually create more problems for yourself by doing the cutting and sucking. Okay, that's an old foolish myth. Don't cut and suck. Don't do electric shock. And of course, some folks go, you can do ice. Yes, ice does constrict things and it can slow it down. But again, we're talking about if you have access to nothing. And of course, if you're in the middle of the desert, you ain't going to have ice in the first place. So again, this has been just kind of our best thing I can say is just an overview of some things that you can do to help yourself if you get bit by a venomous snake. some signs and symptoms and things to look out for if you're not sure. And what do you do if you get bit? Well, there's not a lot you can do. There's not much you can do. Even if you have a first aid kit, there's not a whole lot you can do. And if you have no first aid kit, there's even less that you can do, other than making sure there's no tight things that's going to constrict the venom, making sure to keep yourself calm, okay, and getting to help as fast as you can, and keeping the bite below the heart so that it doesn't run through your body as fast as possible. And as far as doing a tourniquet, if you have a belt, if you have a shirt, if you have pants, you can rip it and create the tourniquet, create it tight, wrap it around there, find yourself a stick or some kind of a rod or something if you just happen to get lucky enough, and you can take and twist it and twist that thing in there until it's nice and like really, really tight, hard tight, cutting off the blood flow, essentially, and that can create that tourniquet. But there's not a whole lot you can do, unfortunately. So it's just a matter of simple things such as keeping yourself calm, removing any tight-fitting articles, and as far as the tourniquet goes, that's totally up to you, but getting yourself to help as fast as you can. All right. Now, this is Chad. We are the Kernersville Reptile Zoo and Medical Center, the Reptile Rangers. We do appreciate you coming along week after week after week. Make sure to write us in and let us know of other things you want us to film about. We appreciate all those that continue to write us in asking about different topics to be filmed on. Make sure to check us out, of course, here at the storefront. We do have the full storefront with all the pets and supplies and foods and all that kind of stuff. So if you're interested in that, feel free and come and see us. Also, you can check out the TikTok channel, also entitled Reptile Rangers, the Instagram page at Kernersville Reptile Zoo. Of course, we do have the Facebook page, Kernersville Reptile Zoo. And again, we do appreciate you guys coming along with us and following along with all the things that we get involved in. Our information will be in the description below for any of those that need to get in touch with us. And we'll either see you here at the zoo or we'll see you on the next episode. Later.